How's it going? Video game lovers, welcome back once again to We-videogames, and today I'm very excited again. Today we go what we can call part 3 of my top 10 PS2 horror games. We got another 10 video games here, horror video games for the PS2, and I'm really happy. So basically how this started was I actually wanted to go through the best, what I consider the best PS2 games on horror games in the PS2. And then I was like, okay, there is multiple horror games in the PS2, so there's an opportunity to do a second, even a third video, which is what I'm going to do now. I did the second, which you can check on my channel, and then I'm doing the third. So I guess it's top 30 PS2 horror PS2 games. And that's exactly what I'm going to do after I finish this video. I'm going to compile all 30 games that we've been through in the 3 videos, and then I'm going to create a top 30 PS2 games, horror games on the PS2, basically. So really happy that we're gonna go through another 10 great horror games on the PS2. If you like horror, if you like the PS2, please stay tuned, because this will be great. I mean, those are the most popular videos on my channel, so we'll keep making them and keep making great content. Really happy that I got time to get this video completed. So before we get started, please remember to hit that like button, comment, share, and of course subscribe. Keep supporting the channel so we can keep growing, and we're gonna get there one day. So I'm gonna get big. Thanks so much for your support, and as it is the case, you know how it is. Let's get this video rolling. And at number 10 we have Demon Summoner. So we start this video off with the weakest game on this top 10. This is a really interesting game. I gotta admit that it's not the greatest horror game out there. There is a lot of things wrong with the game, unfortunately. But, I mean, if I tell you that this is a first-person horror game based on Victoria, London, 1888 to be precise, that's probably going to sound really cool. I mean, that's an incredible combination, right? Unfortunately, there's a lot of things wrong with the game, especially because the game is so easy. I mean, as long as you are actually walking backwards, your enemies won't be able to attack. So it makes it a really easy game. But nevertheless, a really interesting game. You get to fight different types of enemies, such as werewolves, vampires, imps, goblins, ghosts and goblins. Yeah, so you get to fight different types of it's not goblins, by the way, it's ghouls, but anyway, let's call them goblins. So really interesting type of gameplay, first person. The graphics aren't that good for the time. It looks budgety, but I enjoyed it a little bit. I think, is it as bad as reviews say it is? I don't think so. I think there's actually some fun to be had in this game, and some of the animations and the characters look really cool, in my opinion. So, you know what? If you're looking for an interesting new type of horror game based on Victoria, England, 1888, like I said, give it a try. This is a different type of game. So, yeah, maybe you won't be disappointed. Maybe you like it. And at number 9, we have Constantine. Constantine is a game that I find really good. I wouldn't say one of the best horror games out there, but definitely a game that is playable in the horror genre and actually does the job well. Probably because I played this game when I was really young, so I came into the game with fresh eyes. Actually, I gave it a fair go. Back in the day, I didn't have too many games, so I had to play the game. And overall, I don't think it's a bad game. Most reviewers gave this game, it was mixed reviews, but most reviewers gave it a lower score. I personally think it's a really good game. I mean, I understood that it was based on a movie, but the game is good. So it is a third-person horror game. You are John Constantine, and basically your goal is to go to hell, yes, to hell, and fight demons. You have multiple types of weapons, mostly, guns. You got the holy gun, and then you have secondary weapons like holy water that you can use as well. Interesting, the game throws multiple enemies at you at once, so there is a lot of action, never a dull moment, I guess. In terms of story, it is interesting, it is different. There's a lot of things, of course, that the game could do better. It is not as scary as you want the game to be. It's very generic in terms of like it doesn't really do anything new, but it does the job. The music, the sound is just normal. I mean, nothing out of the world. It's not. It's definitely not Silent Hill, but it does the job. It's a good game. I liked it, and I want to tell you guys that if you haven't played it yet, to give it a try. And I'm sure that if you like horror games and you're looking for something different, this may be a game that you will enjoy. And at number 8, we have Alone in the Dark. Alone in the Dark is an interesting game. In my opinion, a little bit too ambitious for what it's trying to do. The game has really interesting mechanics, or basically really interesting ideas that the developers weren't unable to make it really work in terms of mechanics. For example, there is multiple interaction with objects around you, but some of these objects are glitchy. For example, the fire extinguisher, where you can extinguish a few fires, but some flames don't really go out, etc. When you are climbing up buildings on ropes, it's not responsive. But overall, the ideas are really good, and the game is really interesting. For example, the health mechanic is that there is no health bar, so basically your screen will go dark or gray. You'll see blurry, and that means that you're getting injured. So what you have to do is you get your health spray wherever you find the wound. So you have to look on your body and find the wound wherever you are wounded, apply the spray, and then bandages around it. So that's how you heal yourself. So it's really interesting, new concepts for the time. Like I said, really ambitious, but the game, the mechanics are interesting. The developers couldn't make these mechanics work properly, basically is what I'm trying to say. If they would have done so, this game would have been amazing, because the graphics are really good for the time, for the PS2. The music is actually really, really good. So the game is not completely bad, but unfortunately, due to the mechanics and the blinking, which I'm not gonna spoil anything, but so there's a few things that the game could have done better if it was given more time to be developed. But in terms of the mechanics, really interesting, just not executed properly. But I would recommend you give Alone in the Dark a try, because the game is not as bad as many reviews will tell you. If you are interested in different type of horror games, give this game a try. I personally think that it deserves a chance. And if you don't like it, well, too bad. But if you like it, you'll definitely have a great experience with this game. So give it a try. And at number 7, we have Ghost Vibration. Ghost Vibration was published by Atari, and to me, this is an interesting game. Most reviews gave this game a negative review. And look, there is a lot of things wrong with the game, especially in the graphics department and the voice acting department. But overall, I think it's a well-balanced game if you like horror games and if you like something a little bit different. So if you ever play Ghost Hunter on the PS2, or any of the Ghostbuster movies, if you watch any of them, you know straight away that this game took a lot of inspiration from those movies to create this game. So basically your job is to go to this really ancient mansion and capture ghosts. Yeah, very similar to what Ghostbusters do. You have a gun, and then you capture ghosts inside the gun, basically. That's pretty much it. And after you capture the ghost, you can read their memories, so you can solve puzzles. So there's a really good combination between horror, ghost, the paranormal, capturing the ghost, and then actually using what you just done with the ghost to solve puzzles. So it's a combination of horror and puzzles, which is something that I really like. And that's what Ghost Vibration brings to the table. Yes, it wasn't well received, a lot of negative reviews. The graphics look cartoony, they look really bad compared to other horror games on the PS2, of course. And the voice acting is just horrible. And when I say horrible, it's horrible. The PS1 Resident Evil games are probably way better than the voice acting in this game. But it is different, like I said. It is not pure horror. Like you won't be as scared as when you play Fatal Frame or when you play the Siren games, or even Resident Evil, Silent Hill. It's more of a Ghostbusters type of or inspired game where you solve puzzles and you capture ghosts basically. So give it a try if you want something new, a new type of horror game on the PS2. This is probably a game to try out. Not a very cheap game, and I believe this was only released in PAL territory. So for all the people in North America, you may have to find a copy from Europe to play. But if you can, give it a try. You won't be disappointed. And at number 6, we got a game that I personally really like, but most people don't. Resident Evil Dead Aim. Okay, where do I start with Resident Evil Dead Aim? I think I can start off by saying that for all of you who are Resident Evil fans, that you've been playing the games for a long time, you know that Capcom has always tried to create, before they actually made Resident Evil 7 of course, they always try to create a first-person shooter Resident Evil, or on-rails shooter Resident Evil. And they fail. They tried on the PS1, they fail. They tried on the PS2, they fail. And I think this was the third attempt to it. And, it wasn't the greatest game, Resident Evil game, but it worked. Basically because what they did is they combined the familiar third-person shooting that we know of with first-person shooting. How does that make sense? Well, basically you move as a third person, just like the classic Resident Evil. But when you are shooting, when you enter combat, you actually go into a first-person mode. So it's a combination of both. I think that works. In my opinion, I had a great time with the game. The controls work, not just like the other previous two games where the controls were really clunky. They just didn't work. This game actually made the controls work, and the shooting is actually good. The only negative that I can find in this game, I mean, there's a couple, but the main one is that the game is really short. I mean, if you are actually enjoying the game, you are going to finish it really quick. If you're not, then that's probably a positive. You're going to finish the game really, really quick in a couple of hours. And apart from that, I think it's more of the classic Resident Evil. I mean, the story is really weak. The characters that this game has they are not well done, basically. It's not an engaging story or engaging characters. So in terms of characters and story and etc., it's not the best. But in terms of gameplay, I think it works. Graphics are really good, and it is connected to the Resident Evil story overall. So I think the game is a game to give it a chance. If you play with the gun con, even much better, because the gun con is actually responsive. So if you are a Resident Evil fan, if you are a PS2 fan, and if you are a survival horror fan, and if you're looking for something different, something that is similar to the classic Resident Evil but with a little bit of a twist to it, a little bit different, give Resident Evil Dead Aim a try. Not many people did. Those who didn't like it, most of them. But if you are a true fan, I think you will enjoy it for what it is. So give it a try and let me know how you got. And at number 5, we have Silent Hill 4 The Room. So, Silent Hill 4 The Room, it is considered by many people to be the weakest PS2 Silent Hill game. So, I agree with that. I think that 2 and 3 were better than Silent Hill 4. That doesn't mean that Silent Hill 4 is a bad game, not at all. Basically what this means is that Silent Hill 2 and 3 were just incredible games. And look, Silent Hill 4 did a few things wrong. Let me start by saying that they tried to be very different to 2 and 3, which is not bad. But when you have such great games like 2 and 3, as 2 and 3, which are, in my opinion, some of the best games ever created in the horror genre. So, I mean, if you play this game, you won't be disappointed. I am almost 100% sure. Maybe if you play it after the 2 and 3, you'll be even better. So, give it a try. And at number 4, we have Manhunt. Most of you won't consider Manhunt to be a horror game. And look, in reality, the Manhunt isn't a horror game. It is more of a stealth, action, suspense type of game. However, I decided to include in this game because, as you may know, if you play this game or if you're looking at the footage of this game, you can see that it's a very gloomy, dark, kind of horror-like environment. The game is extremely gory, extremely violent. There's a lot of blood. So, in my opinion, even though it's not a horror game, it feels like a horror game. It feels, in many aspects, in many places in the game, it feels very suspenseful, like a thriller type of game. So, I decided to include in this game. The game is incredible. It's one of the best games I played of this type. Unfortunately, well, Rockstar didn't want to create more games. There's a sequel to this, which I haven't had in my collection, but number 1 is a really good game. It's so violent that the game was actually cancelled in many countries, including Australia. But later on, it came back to stores, and I managed to play it, and it's an amazing game. It's stealth, very well done by Rockstar. They are incredible at making games of any type, to be honest. Although the AI is not that good. There's a lot of issues with the AI. But in terms of feeling and gory and violent, the story is really dark as well. This game just clicks all the ticks to make it an incredible suspense horror-like game. I think it's one of the greatest games made of this type. And one of the most violent for sure, probably the most violent game on the PS2. So look, if you haven't played this game, give it a try. It's, like I said, not a horror game per se, but definitely a very dark atmosphere and feeling. This game does it really well. So if you're looking for suspense and something different, maybe not very scary, but different to the most scary games like Silent Hill, etc., give this game a go if you haven't yet. Very gory, very violent, so expect that to be kind of what you're gonna go through the whole game. Very good game. Rockstar's made incredible games, so you'll find very good mechanics, and the ways you can kill your enemies are very gory. You can use multiple weapons, sneak behind enemies and kill them in multiple different ways depending on the weapon you have. So look, give it a go. If you are looking for something that is not as scary, but it is suspenseful, this game is for you. And at number 3, we have Resident Evil Outbreak File 2. Okay, so we all know that I love Resident Evil. You probably know that I play most, if not all, the games in the Resident Evil genre. Or franchise rather. And this game is an absolutely amazing game. You get to play as survivors from Raccoon City. So if you play and enjoy the first couple of Resident Evil games on the PS1, you feel incredible when playing this game because you feel familiar with a lot of the areas that you actually play in the PS1, but they are actually better now because you play in the PS2, better graphics. So you notice a lot of places that you visit in the first classic games are in this game because you play in Raccoon City, of course. Amazing game, the best game to play with friends. This is kind of like co-op. Before there was actually the internet. I mean, you couldn't play it online, but it wasn't, it was mid 2000. It wasn't as good as it is today. But if you have a couple of friends over and play in the couch, this was a very good game. Scary, maybe less than the classic Resident Evils because you can play with friends, so that makes it less scary. you can exchange weapons, so you still have to manage the inventory like every Resident Evil game, but in this time you actually have to, if you feel like your friend has something that you could use, you can exchange it for something. If your friend, for example, needs help, maybe a little bit of, maybe he needs health, you can exchange it for weapons or whatever, depending on what you need. The game is amazing. You get to play multiple different characters. You get to pick any of them, and it is just really good. There is zombies. There is the part that I like so much is that you actually go to Raccoon City Zoo and you get to fight zombie animals, which is just an incredible experience. Look, the game is still horror. It's still scary. Maybe not as scary as the original games, but definitely still a scary game. So give it a try if you haven't played this game. Play it with a friend. You won't be disappointed. This or number one, any of the two, both are incredible games. So, I mean, do yourself a favor and play it if you enjoy the classic Resident Evil games. And the game is actually a little bit long. It's not too long, but definitely a good experience. This one better than number one in my opinion, and the graphics are really good as well. So, you know what? If you haven't played it yet, if you want to just, if you enjoy Resident Evil but you want to play something different, this is definitely the game for you. Play with a friend and you won't disappoint. Number 2, we have Obscure. So if you watch my previous top 10 horror games on the PS2, you probably saw that I put Obscure 2 in there. And now that I play Obscure 1, I think this game is just very good. I mean, this game does a lot of things very, very well. To start with, I mean, again, I hate to mention it so many times, but it's reminiscent of Resident Evil games in many aspects. So instead of the classic Resident Evil where you are in a mansion, you're actually in a high school. There's a lot of things happening in this high school. There are students get missing. Nobody knows where they're going. There are screams. Very weird things happening in this high school. And your job is to basically solve or find out what's happening. You can choose between multiple characters. I think it's 5 in total. Just like the second game, they have special abilities, all of them, and this creates for a more dynamic type of gameplay because you get to exchange your character that you're playing with special abilities for each character. So if you're stuck in an area, you may need another character to open up the next area. And it's very similar to Resident Evil in terms of like where you have to collect like files, open rooms, puzzles to move to the next area. So all that kind of stuff that we love about Resident Evil is in this game. So an incredible type of game, in my opinion, one of the most underrated horror games. This one is number 2, of course, in the PS2. And the music is really good. Again, look, it's not top notch, but it does the job well. Atmosphere is creates horror. The game has a lot of horror in it, so I don't think it's a bad game at all. Yeah, I enjoyed it from end to end, and a lot of things that are very similar to Resident Evil, but a lot of things they do it differently and maybe even better. The monsters are really brutal. The game could be difficult sometimes, but that creates a better experience in my opinion, giving you a little bit of a challenge. And yeah, there's multiple different enemies, no zombies like Resident Evil, but monsters. So look, I'm not going to spoil anything from the story. The story is pretty good. Just give it a go. Very similar to number 2. A little more clunky in terms of the controllers and the visuals, of course. But the game does it very, very well in terms of horror and suspense. So look, if you play 2, or if you've watched the video and you like 2, this one is probably very similar. So give it a go, and I'm sure you'll like it. Horror game, underrated, really good game. And at number 1, we have Silent Hill Origins. So another Silent Hill game makes it to the top 10, and this time is, in my opinion, the best game in this particular top 10. If you guys haven't watched my other 2 top 10 PS2 horror games, please do so. See, this is part number 3, so we cover a lot of games. But for this particular video, I think Silent Hill Origins is the best. Look, it is true that Silent Hill Origins doesn't do a lot of things new when compared to the previous Silent Hill games on the PS2. Is that a bad thing? I personally don't think so. I mean, we already spoke about Silent Hill The Room, where he tried to do a lot of things different, and in trying to do so, he created many problems because it was way too different to what was already good. This game, a lot of people criticize it because it's actually using a lot of things recycled from the previous games, which were really good, and in my opinion, if they were really good, and they recycle things for this game, that means that this game actually is really good because it works. You know, it may get repetitive because you already played two games that do things similar, but it doesn't matter. I think the game is really good. The atmosphere in this game is actually incredible. It might be, look, it's one of the best in the Silent Hill franchise, on par with 2 and maybe 1. This game does really, really well in terms of atmosphere. It is scary, it is suspenseful, it is an incredible atmosphere, so this game does work really well. The puzzles in this game are really good, really, really good, so you will definitely enjoy the puzzles throughout the whole game. The story is not very good, it's not very scary, but that doesn't matter. I think the gameplay is very good, it's very similar to the other games. Maybe the combat needs a little bit of work, and that's probably the weakest point for this game. The combat could have been much better. But if you're looking for an experience, a Silent Hill experience in terms of, you know, eerie atmosphere and scary, this game is the one to play. The latest game on the PS2 for the Silent Hill franchise, and I think it's just really, really good. This is where everything started. This is the origin, hence the name of all the Silent Hills. So play it, give it a go. You will be scared, that's for sure. So if you're looking to get scared, this is the game. And if you're looking to get a little bit, maybe something that's a little bit familiar to the classic games, then this is your game. If you're looking for something different, then this is definitely not your game. Maybe 4 is more of your game. The music is really good as well, so it helps create that tense atmosphere. So look, mechanics really good. The story a little bit weak, but in terms of horror, this is one of the best games out there. So that's why it is a number 1, because I think it's very well put together. So, you know, if you're watching this and you haven't played it and you love Silent Hill, or if you love horror games in general, give this game a go. Trust me, it's a really good game. And that is it. Another 10 horror PS2 games cover in my third video. I mean, we have some really good games here. Some really good games in this video. Incredible. We did 3 different PS2 horror games, and I'm really, really happy. I think we cover most of the best horror games in the PS2. I mean, we cover 30, and there's probably like 50 maybe. So look, maybe another possibility to that top 10 one day. I will have to buy a lot of games and play them before I actually do it, so it's probably going to be a long time. But I'm very happy with what we managed to do. I think we, you know, some games are better than others, of course. I mean, in terms of horror, and I said it in the previous videos, and I'll say it again, you got different type of horror, action horror, you go, you know, even stealth horror, you got gory games, suspense, thriller games, psychological horror, and more realistic horror, I guess. So yeah, there's different types for everyone. Resident Evil and Silent Hill are of course the go-to games when it comes to horror, because they are what they are. They are the best. But there are other games like Obscure where you know, they are amazing games that people don't know too much about. So yeah. So thank you for joining once again for another video. I'm very happy that we managed to get this one done. And thank you for watching. Thank you to all of you who have subscribed. Very close to 100 now. So if you like the video, please remember to hit the like button, comment, share, and subscribe. Stay tuned for more videos. Hit the little bell so you get notified when I upload new videos. And I'll actually try to compile all 30 games I went through, all 30 horror games, and put a whole video of those 30 games, and it will be really good. So stay tuned for that. Hope you have a beautiful break, beautiful holidays with your family and friends and the loved ones. Stay safe, and I'll see you on the next video, and take care.